Welcome to today's webinar for students accepted into Penn State's Master of Public Policy program. First of all, congrats on your acceptance and welcome to Penn State. Hi, I'm Whitney Sheridan, Director of Communications for the School of Public Policy at Penn State in the College of the Liberal Arts. I'll be moderating today's webinar along with our presenters who I'd like to introduce. We have Stephen Moczydlowski. He's our Enrollment and Advising Manager in the Penn State School of Public Policy. Hi, Stephen. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Whitney. Thank you for having me.
Also with us is Jonathan Ortiz. John just graduated with a BS in criminology. He was part of our integrated undergraduate-graduate program during his senior year, and now he's a full-time MPP student, and we'll be talking to him about his experience as well as his internship in a little bit. John, thanks for joining us. And we also have with us Catherine Baumgardner. She is our Director of Professional Development and Student Engagement. Catherine is also an associate teaching professor, and she has more than 30 years of practical experience in the field of public policy, a lot of experience in health policy, and we'll be talking to her about her work with students, student engagement, and career development. Thanks so much for being here, Catherine.
Thank you for having me, Whitney.
And again, thank you all for the students for being here as well. And we want to be sure to let you know we are here to take your questions throughout the entire presentation. You can click on that Q&A button in Zoom and we are open to your questions. Stephen especially, he's our Enrollment Advising Manager. He has many opportunities to answer all of your questions. You can also email him anytime. His email is publicpolicy@psu.edu. So what are we going to be talking about today? To give you an idea of today's program, we're going to give you an overview of the MPP program, which you probably know a lot about since you did apply. We're going to talk about why, though, you should choose Penn State for your MPP program. We will introduce our primary teaching faculty. We're going to talk about some of the career options and income expectations for grads. We'll talk about the unique support that the program provides to our students. We'll break down next steps for the admissions process. We'll discuss financial aid and tuition, and we'll talk about life at Penn State. And I'm going to rely heavily on John for that. Of course, once again, we're going to take your questions, which I see we have one already in the queue. So we're hanging on to that for a second because I know that's going to be one for Stephen. But first, before we get started, I know that we should probably provide an update about what's happening with Penn State and where we are on the latest information related to COVID-19. Stephen, can you give us an update?
Yes, I can, Whitney. So there are a lot of different options that are being considered for the university for the fall semester with everything that is going on. So at the moment, right now, all summer courses and summer coursework have been moved remotely, just like it was for spring. As you see on the slide, that there's a website the university has put together that continually has updates on everything that is going on, and any new decisions that are made by the university will be posted there first before they go anywhere else. In regards to the fall semester, there's a couple of options. Right now, one of the options is that we are back on campus for fall semester in person. Another option is that we start fall semester remotely and then come back to campus at a later date to finish fall semester in person. And then finally, the last option that's being considered is that we remain remote for fall semester. But the key thing to keep in mind with all of this is that regardless of what happens, the fall semester will be continuing and you as new students will still be able to start your MPP program. This isn't going to have any impact on your degree timeline or anything like that. You will still be receiving the necessary coursework regardless of what happens.
And speaking of coursework, we already have a question and I don't want to ignore them. So let's go ahead and get this, even though we're going to be talking about next steps in the process. So Stephen, this one's for you. It says, where do I send my transcript and diploma so that I can register for graduate classes?
So you just, as far as I know, need to send a final transcript that says that your degree has been conferred, and that just needs to be sent to the graduate school. I believe there are ways for it to be digitally uploaded to your current application. So even though you've been admitted and we've offered you a start point, you can go back in if your school sends you a digital file of your transcript and upload it. If you have any issues, I would recommend reaching out to the graduate school in their enrollment office because they handle the processing of all documents in regards to getting you ready to start. In the meantime, if you want to, you can set up an appointment with me and we can talk about the next steps, which we'll go over a little bit later in the presentation. But we can then sit down and kind of get you ready to go. So once you're all clear, you don't have to worry about anything else.
So Stephen, this webinar is for accepted students, so they probably know a lot about the program, but why don't you go ahead and just give us a quick overview?
So the program is a 2-year full-time master's degree that takes place at our University Park campus. It is a 43 credit professional master's degree. Students do the core curriculum primarily in year 1. That's where you're going to be taking the majority of your policy courses. Year 2 is where students get the flexibility that makes our program a little bit unique. You get to choose essentially where you want to develop your focus within public policy. And so when you're looking at this slide right now, you can see that there's already a list of specializations that have been pre-designed, and there's courses that you can choose from for all of these different specializations. But if you're looking at this and you don't see something that aligns with your interests, it's really easy to work with me to create your own specialization option, because it's just a matter of finding 4 courses that logically make up that specific area. And luckily, with Penn State being as large as we are and having as many resources as we do, it's pretty easy to find classes that fit within a specific area of interest.
I want to bring John into the discussion in just a moment, but we have a really great question that I want to be sure to address, since we just talked about where Penn State is on making a decision about the fall with COVID-19. And we have a question here that says, if we have been awarded a TA position, will those and their income be affected by COVID? Do we know anything about that at this point?
So at the moment, the research positions that students have been offered are not going to be impacted by the decision in terms of how fall semester is being delivered. So the nice thing about these positions is they are tied specifically to our faculty and their research interests and research projects and grants that they have going on. So even if you're not physically on campus, there are things that you can still do with whichever faculty member you would be paired up with that will allow you to get the hours necessary to get that hourly pay that equals the amount that we put up on the website.
Excellent. Thanks, Stephen. So John, I want to ask you, we've been talking about the specializations and the program structure. What's your specialization and what brought you into the MPP program?
All right, so hi everyone. As Whitney said, I'm Jonathan Ortiz, and I just got done my first full year in the MPP program. I am specializing in criminal justice, and I just finished, I believe, those courses, unless Stephen tells me I have to do something else. And what brought me to the MPP program was honestly the flexibility that this program had in terms of specializations. I was in my junior year, or between my junior and senior year, when I heard about the MPP program starting up. And at the time, I was already looking at other grad schools for after I finished with my bachelor's at Penn State. And what kept me at Penn State was this program, because after talking to Stephen really convinced me, and everything else is true, that their focus was to help us gain as much experience and knowledge in our specializations as possible. So that's one thing that you realize when talking to Stephen, is that you never really hear no from him. You know, he utilizes the resources at hand at all times for you, and you are grateful for that. There's constant communication with him, and honestly, it really helps you want to learn more about your program, something that I love about Penn State, I've been here for 4 years, obviously, is that it's not so much the right questions to ask, it's a matter of, are you asking questions? Because something that you find out about Penn State is that you ask any question and there's an answer for it. There's a slim chance that it's a no, because someone is an expert in that field that you're asking for. Someone knows some alumni that graduated 30 years ago, and they can help you with that, and they'll network with you. So that really, as an undergrad, you see that and you experience it, but as a grad student, man, you really get to network a lot, and you really get to see what Penn State has to offer in terms of resources. So that's really what kept me at Penn State. You know, I was looking at some other good schools, but when I sat down with Steven and I learned about the faculty and I learned about their mission, or our mission, I should say, and I learned, you know, that even if you were in your second year and you were kind of flexible or rethinking your specialization, they're allowing you to kind of create one as long as it fits with their criteria. You won't find that anywhere else. You know, this program, I'm telling you right now, it's gonna work you. It is, but you're gonna, after each class, you're gonna walk out with so much knowledge. And obviously, I couldn't know that coming in, but Steven gave me a glimpse of that before I decided to apply.
Excellent. And following up on that, we have a question here that says, if we are interested in a specialization that does not match up with our undergraduate major, is that problematic? And I know for a fact we have some students who have chosen specializations that are different from their undergraduate major. Stephen, do you want to address that? And I do want to note that we have a question here that we're going to address, and I'm talking to someone about the answer as well. So go ahead, Stephen, if you want to talk about specializations and matching up with the undergraduate major.
Sure. Yeah. So there's no specific thing that has to match with your specialization. So, like, let's say, for instance, you studied sociology in undergrad and you want to do a specialization in international policy. There's no barrier to that. We're not looking for you to necessarily continue to just build upon what you did in undergrad if that's not where your interests lie from a policy standpoint. You know, a lot of the things that you do in undergrad can help be the base for what you want to do in graduate school, but it doesn't necessarily have to line up exactly with what you want your specialization to be. So there's no barrier. We don't say, hey, you did this undergrad, you have to do this kind of specialization. The flexibility is there for you to kind of craft it the way that you want to, within reason, obviously, and working with me.
Great. We do have a question about, if you're looking at data science analytics, is there a special type of computer that we should consider getting? And Chris Whitco, one of our directors, is saying any standard computer is fine. And I also asked another one of our professors too, so I expect to hear back from him as well. But so the answer is no. But I want to let everyone know that Penn State is a leader in the research of data science analytics. So I think that's on one of our slides coming up later, but we do have a lot of great faculty in that area. Some great questions that we're getting. Thank you, and keep them coming. So you're looking at these specializations, you're looking at the program structure, but why specifically Penn State? Stephen, what do you usually tell people when you're out visiting people at graduate fairs, career fairs? What are the highlights that you like to tell people as the main reasons that people should come to Penn State?
I mean, John did a real good job selling it for me beforehand, but I'll try to follow up from the great job that he did. Yeah, exactly. So I think that there's a lot of benefits to our program that you're not going to get anywhere else, but there's a few things that I like to highlight for students. Number one was the specialization flexibility, which we just talked about in the previous slide. The other thing is that we're a newer program. So even though we're a very large university, we're a small program at the moment. And this affords you a lot of opportunities to connect with the student services that we have as part of the program, which is myself and Catherine, Whitney, and a few others. But it also gives you a lot of ability to connect with our faculty. You're not sitting in large classrooms. You're able to really work one-on-one with the faculty that are teaching the courses that we're providing to you. And that's something that you're not going to get everywhere else that you go. Another thing is the vibrant student life that exists at Penn State. There are so many different things that you can do, regardless of what your interests are. There's a ton of different clubs, organizations that you can get involved with at the graduate level. There are always different things going on in or around the university, whether it's the town holding different festivals or big concert venues coming in to the university. There's just always something that you can do on campus. And even though we're essentially located in the middle of nowhere, you shouldn't have a reason to be bored. There's always things to do. There's always things to keep yourself engaged. And then the biggest thing that I always tell students is the biggest benefit is Penn State's Alumni Association and our alumni network. Penn State has the largest active dues paying alumni association in the world. And that is a resource that I can never completely quantify for students, because no matter where you go in the United States, every major city has an alumni chapter for Penn State. Almost every country in the world has an alumni chapter for Penn State. You can go anywhere once you leave here with your degree and automatically have an instant network that you can tap into no matter where you end up in the globe, of people who are going to be more than happy to provide you with support, resources, mentoring, encouragement, whatever you might need, all because you came here and you went to Penn State.
And even as a new program, we're receiving a lot of support right now. We just received an endowment this week, which we're very excited about. But I do want to reinforce about the faculty and the Penn State resources that we have here. Penn State ranked in the top 10 in expenditures in the last couple of years in research in 18 research fields, and is one of the main research universities for funding from the government. So I know that we do receive a lot of funding for our research, but I know John wanted to chime in there, I think, about data analytics and about the caliber of our faculty, I believe. So John, if you had something you wanted to add there.
Yeah, so I know nothing about what that field requires. Specifically, but I do know that, again, you asked a question, and that's great. Understand that with the Penn State resources that you have now as a student, it's more so about the software that you need to have your computer aligned with or downloaded with. So just make sure that you're asking Stephen, but also looking nationally what your computer needs to have, because sometimes it's not really about getting a new computer, it's about downloading the software. So just make sure that you are aligning with what's nationally recommended, and just asking Stephen before you do anything like that. But again, it's a question that you asked, and that's great.
That's right. And we have an orientation, and even, I don't know, Stephen, you want to mention a couple of programs that we have during orientation, getting people prepared for some of the courses that we do.
Yeah.
I know that Tima and I think Andy did a couple of things related to data science and public and analytics, as you know, if you might want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so during the week leading into the start of classes is essentially orientation week for graduate students. The graduate school will send you information about their orientation, which happens that week. It's usually the majority of a single day. And they're going to review a lot of different things that are very important for you, whether it's health insurance, housing, research protocols, all sorts of different stuff. But then on our end, we have a lot of different programming that week to kind of get you ready to kind of hit the ground running on day one. And so what we have in place for orientation is that there are going to be a couple days where for an hour or two, you will be working with our faculty in what we call our stat refresher. And this is just a way to make sure that everybody who's coming into the first semester is kind of jumping into our first statistics course prepared, because statistics is not a prerequisite to come into this program, but you do have to jump into statistics in your first semester. And so to make sure everyone's successful, we do this as part of orientation week, just to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the programs that are going to be used, and also just to have a basic knowledge starting point. And then on top of that, we do an orientation as the school, where we'll run over all the different resources that are available to you, how to connect with them. We're going to connect you with our current cohort of students like Jonathan, where they're going to be able to tell you all about their internship experiences that they've done, and also get connected to the faculty. So there's a lot that goes into orientation week to kind of get you prepared to start this program.
I love these questions that are coming in, because we're jumping around, which is great, but we're getting some amazing, these questions are fantastic. We had another one come in that says, will the person who we're paired up with for orientation be the person who is our advisor? We'll talk about mentorship later, Catherine, but Stephen, do you want to address this about advising? And
so I'm everyone's advisor in terms of the program from an academic standpoint. So if you have questions regarding resources or anything like that, I'm the point of contact that you'll primarily be working with. If it's in regards to if you've been granted a research position, you'll find out about that in probably late summer before we get to orientation. It's just a matter of finalizing everything, and you'll get connected to whichever faculty member you will be paired up with then, so that you will be able to be in touch with them before we get to orientation. And then obviously for any of the career things and professional development that comes as part of the program, when you're looking for advising and mentoring on that aspect, that's where you're going to connect with Catherine, and she's going to do some talking a little bit later once we get deeper into the presentation and kind of explain a little bit more in depth exactly everything that she can do to help you be successful in this program and post program.
Exactly. So we have a couple slides where we introduce our faculty. I'm going to briefly go over this and mostly just ask a couple questions. I want to ask John some things about working with the faculty. And even though we don't assign people one-on-one advising partners or anything like that, John, I just want to briefly ask you, as we're looking at our faculty, you have a small cohort. This was the first cohort. You guys are pretty tight, right?
Yes, we are.
You're a pretty tight group.
Yes, we are. To the point that when I lost last week because of Steven and trivia, I received a couple text messages and I was sad for a couple days because it's all in good fun, but I hate losing. So thank you, Steven, for that. I still blame you. But I will be I'm looking at this image right now. So I'm gonna tell you this right now about our faculty is that they're humans. All right. They love when you talk to them. They love hearing about what you're interested in. I remember coming in thinking like, oh man, like I have to ask the right questions. Like I have to raise my hand a certain way because it's grad professors. And no, they're humans. They have humor. They love discussing their research with you in the middle of class. Simon is notorious for that. I'll tell you this right now. You bring up any health related questions or policy questions, you'll leave that class knowing about his research. I'm telling you this right now. And I wasn't even a TA for him or a research assistant for him, you know. But I'll tell you this right now, our faculty is fun to be in class with. And especially I was able this semester with COVID-19, able to see that in a different glance when your professors are holding class for you, and they're emailing you, making sure that you got everything that you needed, making sure that you feel comfortable with the material. So please, I ask of this, when you come in lighthearted, come in ready to learn with some joy, because these professors, they're teaching you what they're like in a field that they've researched in. And they just want to know. They just want to know. They just want to give you everything that they know, but they also want to know more about you so that they can guide you. So please come in with that expectation, because I'm telling you, they won't let you down.
Yeah, it seems like your cohort has made a really nice support system for each other. Um, and it's been really great to see you guys work together um, in class and outside of class. We know you guys spent some time together. But you have I believe you've secured a research position for next fall, correct?
That's correct.
But the assignments haven't been given out yet.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
And I apologize. I was supposed to talk about my cohort, not the faculty. So in like 15 seconds, I'll tell you this right now. You're with your cohort all day, every day, right?
Okay.
So that's fun when you're in class with them. But really, you start getting close when you're at the library before and after class. That will happen. Expect that to happen. Okay. On the weekends, you're gonna be getting together. Whether it's to watch the big game, to go tailgate, or literally just to go out and just hang out and talk about how stressful classes are, or whatever it is, or the transition to Penn State is. You become tight because of how much time you spend together, but you learn to enjoy each other once you start building a relationship with each other, and that's the best advice or the best experience I could tell you about.
And it sounds like, as you were saying before, you found the faculty very approachable, and because you had small classes, you were able to talk with them one-on-one, work with them one-on-one if you had any questions, that kind of thing, right?
Correct. Yes. The good thing is that we are a new program, so our class sizes are small, so you're able to build not only a relationship with your cohort, but to familiarize yourself with the professor and their ways of being a professor and their research. So you're able to communicate a lot more than you would if you were in a bigger size classroom.
We have a question for you right now, Jonathan. How difficult was it for you to adjust to grad school, the course load, the classes, the assignments? Because you were in your senior year, you were doing both graduate classes and finishing up your undergrad degree.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, it's difficult. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. It's difficult because you have to remember your senior year, so you're finishing up like what Whitney said. I'm finishing up my classes, which are 400 level courses. But then on top of that, I am in grad classes, which means now that I'm doing a lot more research outside of the class. The readings, I can tell you this right now, I was doing full literature reviews before classes. Like I had to read 45 pages for one class. And that's like one assignment. They'll give you 5 assignments for the week for that one class. So it's a lot of work, but that's why the cohort is important, because I'll give you an example. One of the kids right now in the program, his name is Kai, he's from Michigan. Or he went to school in Michigan, and he's in our program, obviously. And he's able to pick out like the little details in research articles that I honestly can't. So whenever we were assigned homework, I read it, he read it, and then I'll text him right away like, hey, what was it for the methods that caught your eye? And he'll tell me, and then he'll help me familiarize myself with like the methods to grasp that knowledge. So it was difficult, but again, that's why you have your cohort and you have the faculty, because the cohort really helps you. Think about everyone. We have a kid from Phoenix. We have kids from Boston, from Florida, like people that went to different schools and people that from different areas, and they each are unique in how they do their work. So when you come together collectively, you realize you may have a weak point, but they'll help you grow in that area.
Great, thank you. And what a great question as well. So you probably understand now, especially after the great testimonials we've gotten from John, and he really is a key part of the cohort. You probably understand the value of an MPP degree. Maybe you have a career goal in mind, but we want to reinforce the value of the degree. The MPP program is unique because it's a professional degree. And I want to bring Catherine Baumgardner, our Director of Professional Development and Student Engagement, into the conversation. Catherine, talk to us about employment opportunities briefly, and talk to us about the value of the MPP degree. Will this boost a student's earning power?
Sure, Whitney. First of all, let me say congratulations to everyone on the list here tonight. This is a really incredibly exciting time to be in public policy. As you saw from the specialization, you can go in so many different directions. So career paths can take you to the government, to non-government, to think tanks, to nonprofit, to for-profit organizations, large corporations. But I think the most important question that we all ask in education is, am I going to get a return on my investment? And the numbers do show that MPP grads earn about $19,000 more than those without the master's degree. And so pretty quickly, the numbers add up to a return on investment that is a relatively quick one. You'll find incomes range anywhere between $40,000 and $125,000, with medians around $70,000. Those numbers aren't cast in stone. They do depend on whether you go to the for-profit or the not-for-profit, or the government agency versus small organization. But my advice is always follow your heart, do what you love, and the money will typically follow. So I just hope I have the opportunity to work with every single one of you, because just seeing the questions that you posed already tonight is a great sign of things to come.
And John, real quickly, because I want to keep going with some of the resources specifically that Catherine works with you guys on, but any plans or for career goals post-graduation? Do you have them in mind yet?
Yeah, so I plan on working for the federal government. I would love to go right ahead and work for the U.S. Marshals and start off as a special agent, and then be able to move up. And ultimately, I would like to finish in diplomatic security, and that also requires me to be a special agent before I'm able to move up into the administration level. But those are the two fields where I see myself working in specifically.
Great. All right. So, Catherine, we mentioned the program is a professional program. We need to get these students ready for becoming these professionals. And we provide a lot of support to do that. You specifically, how do we do that?
Well, the most important message you can take from tonight is I am here to help you. Our goal is to provide the workforce with graduates who know how to do the job, who aren't seeing the job for the first time and trying to figure it out. But and we do that in a couple of different ways. We have an internship and a capstone program. Internships are something that the student finds, but I give you a lot of support. We all give you a lot of support in finding that internship. Everything from resume reviews to cover letter writing to preparing the application, preparing for interviews, pivoting in this world to better prepare for the virtual interview and now the virtual workplace that every single one of our interns will be experiencing. I know John's hoping to get out to Wisconsin at some point during his internship, but if not, he's well prepared to do what he needs to do online, and that's the kind of support that we provide. And woven into all of that is career coaching and really helping you to decide, what do I want to do in my lifetime? What's really interesting about public policy is I think now is one of the most exciting times to be in public policy, not only for all the different specializations, but because of the visibility of public policy. It's at times like these where there's crisis that you begin to test your system, you begin to test your foundation and infrastructure. That is the foundation in public policy. And when you find the weak points and you wonder why things aren't working, it's typically because something got forgotten when it comes to public policy or the value wasn't seen. And so it's a tremendous time to be joining this field and really adding your voice to what we should do going forward. And that's again where the leadership development comes into play. So understanding who you are as a leader and what you want to contribute to the field and how you bring your best skills to the table. And as a part of that process, and includes exposure to people within the field who are thought leaders, our faculty who are doing their research, and ultimately mentoring. And so it's reaching into the alumni pool. It's reaching into the fields where people are doing the kind of job that you want to do and creating a relationship for you that allows you to grow and test your own wings against what somebody else has seen, and to have not only the faculty and us holding you up, but to have people in the field. And that's where that alumni network becomes so incredibly important. I can honestly tell you, when I've approached a Penn State alum about doing anything to support us, the answer is always yes. And it's not only yes, it's like, and what else can I do? So that's what we're here for. And you know, as Jonathan said, he's never heard no from Stephen. We won't hear no from me either. We'll figure it out.
I was just
He
gonna.
did tell me no, and that's when I got the correct answer in trivia, and he said no to me. I'm not gonna bring it up. I'm not gonna bring it up.
Let that go,
John.
Still
John, so-
salty.
Oh my gosh,
We
John.
had, just so for the audience, we had a little trivia game last week about faculty, and that's what John's a little
yes,
soft
we did.
about.
John, Catherine teased that John has an internship in Wisconsin. Of course, right now it's remote. John, tell us about your internship. Where is it, and what will you be doing?
So I got an internship with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, with their administration team, in the Wisconsin region. So they are in charge of Wisconsin and Minnesota. Excuse me. And I will be working with them hand in hand with policies regarding their national parks, the state parks that are in their regions as well, but also how to expand their federal funding. So that'll be a neat experience for myself. Right now, it hasn't started yet. I still have to get my federal credentials, which is, it sounds like a really easy thing to get. I have to drive to Pittsburgh on Tuesday to get it, because that's the only building in Pennsylvania that is allowing non-full-time employees to actually get their credentials. So once that starts, you guys can ask me whatever questions you want, and I'll answer. As of right now, they are working with me. I got the acceptance offer like a month ago, and I've been working hand in hand with my supervisor and the HR office. But I'm working with their admin team. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping that I'm able to move out to Wisconsin for the summer. The plan is for me to start working, if not at the very end of May, the very beginning of June, and to move out there sometime in the middle of June, to work with them, as long as the federal guidelines advise for us to go back to work in our physical offices.
Fantastic. And I want to point out too that we're about 100% of our cohort has secured internships for the summer, which is amazing right now, considering a lot of organizations, businesses have been having to suspend or cancel internships because of what's happening right now. So we're excited about the fact that we have such a great group in our cohort, and we have Catherine here and Stephen to help secure these internships. So it's very exciting to see that we're on track with all of the students. So congratulations, John. Thank you, Catherine, for all that you guys do. So we also want to be sure to talk about what happens next, Stephen. You've been accepted into the program. What should happen next?
Yeah, so there's a few next steps to take so that we can get you all ready to go for fall. The first step is, if you haven't accepted your offer of admission yet, please go ahead and do that, because that's the first step to take so that we can work on getting you set up. The next is to reach out to me to schedule an advising appointment for enrollment. So once everything is clear with the graduate school, we can get you scheduled for classes. But even if you're still waiting to send in your final transcript or proof of diploma or whatever else they might need, we can still talk about the classes that you should be taking, how you will register for them, so that once all that's done, you can just go in and get scheduled for your fall classes. You're also going to want to begin looking at housing. I know that the university hasn't announced what's happening for fall yet, but you are going to want to make sure that you secure some kind of living arrangement for next year. And then prepare for orientation week, which we already got to talk about in detail and everything that goes into it. So once we know what the university's plan is for fall semester, you will be getting communication from us laying out how orientation week is going to operate. The same thing's going to happen whether.
I think Stephen's cutting off. I think what Stephen was about to say is we would hold
remote for updates regarding that.
So Stephen, we had you cut off a little bit. What I assume you were saying is, depending on the situation, we would either hold the orientation online or in person, depending on where we are prior to the beginning of the semester. And I think he's having a little bit of trouble with his internet connection right now. Correct? Yes, it looks like he is. So we do have a question about financial aid, and which is the part that we're getting to right now. Stephen, I'm gonna give you this question first, and then we're gonna go general into financial aid. We got a question that says, Stephen, you keep mentioning research assistance funding. Does this information apply to TA positions as well?
I
think he's having a little trouble with his Wi-Fi at the moment. As far as we know, any type of paid positions have not been suspended, and depending on what's happening, they have not planned to suspend any of those positions at this time. We will have full updates on the university's plans as of June 15th. That's the date that we're supposed to have the answers to those questions. But we have not heard that any of those positions will be suspended. Stephen, do we have you back yet? I don't think we do. So for financial aid, is there someone in financial aid that can talk me through the student loan process? As someone who did not have undergrad loans, the process is daunting. Yes, it is. What is their contact info? Well, I'm glad Stephen is back, I hope.
I'm back, hopefully.
Yeah.
I hope.
Stephen,
technology, you know?
So I think I answered that first question about TA positions and the fact that we have not heard of any research positions or TA positions being suspended for any reason at this point, whether we're online or in person. We've heard that those will be secured. Correct.
Correct. Especially, I think, with our research positions that students are being offered.
But they're asking for TA, teaching assistants.
So we don't have any teaching assistant positions within our program. They're all strictly graduate research positions that are tied to faculty. So I don't know what the university is planning to do regarding graduate teaching assistants. But in terms of the research positions that we offer students, those are tied directly to the work that our faculty are doing. And so, as I had mentioned a little bit earlier in the webinar, that our students that were working with faculty this year were still able to continue to do that for the remainder of spring semester, because there are things that they can do to help our faculty with their research remotely. And all conversations that we have had as a school are that regardless of what happens in fall, the students that we've made offers to for research graduate positions will still be able to do the work necessary to get the funds that we are offering them.
I don't think that we've heard anything about TA positions at this point, but I believe the answer to that would be we'll learn more on June 15th.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So here was another question that came in, and then we'll address the general financial aid information that we have on the screen right now. These are the resources that we have. I think this is going to be helpful for this person's question. Is there someone in financial aid that can talk me through the student loan process? As someone who does not have undergrad loans, the process is daunting. And what is their contact info?
So if you reach out to me, I can email you all of the financial aid contact stuff. I know that also if you just go to financialaid.psu.edu, there's a couple different ways that you can reach out and get in contact with them. They do have specific staff that can walk you through the loan process and everything that you need to do on that end in order to be eligible for federal aid. So I would recommend getting in contact with them as soon as possible, but they should be able to walk you through the process, especially if you've never done it before. That's what they're there to do, is to help you get the aid necessary.
And what are other opportunities? You keep mentioning the research positions. We had the question about TAs.
Yeah, so we get a lot of notifications from across the university, other departments, research institutes, centers that all are looking to hire students, especially graduate students, to fill in and do different types of, whether it be research or office work or all sorts of other types of positions. And as soon as we get those notifications, we send it out to our entire student body so that you have the opportunity to apply or be considered for all of those positions. So whenever they come in, we're sending them out to you. Another option is that a lot of different like work study, wage payroll, and other things that are primarily geared towards student employment can be located at psu.jobs. Now, at the moment, I know that all of that's kind of in limbo until the university makes a decision about fall. But once that's done, that is another place to look to potentially find other positions that can help you in regards to funding the degree. The other nice thing that we haven't actually talked about yet is the structure of the classes. So all of our policy classes take place in the late afternoon and evening, and that is by design to make sure that our students have the ability to work while they're in the program, so that you can help fund your education.
And here's following up on that. This is an excellent question that I'm surprised we've never gotten this before. What are the primary class structures? Seminars, lectures, or something else?
So the primary class structure is lecture classes. They are once a week for 3 hours in the late afternoon and evenings. And so if you're taking a full course load in year one, that's 4 credits, or not 4 credits, I'm sorry, 4 courses, not 4 credits, 4 courses for 12 credits. And so you'd be going to class 4 days a week in the evening. This gives you plenty of time to do your coursework. If you are working a part-time job or you are a research position, this makes it easy for our students to get access to all of the opportunities necessary to help fund the degree.
Great.
Let me also add, Whitney, that there's a leadership elective, which is taught asynchronously online. So that's taken at your schedule. And then the internship course is also taught asynchronously, and it's online. So you don't have to come to a classroom setting for that either.
Great, thank you. So where are they going to live? Talk to us about housing.
So there's a lot of different housing options within Penn State and the Penn State community for graduate students. There are limited graduate housing options on campus. And so to apply to potentially qualify for those, you would just go to housing.psu.edu and click on graduate housing, and you should be able to then go through the process to potentially obtain housing on campus as a graduate student. If you're looking to live more off campus or you're not approved for on-campus housing, there are an abundance of options for students, whether it's apartment buildings that are right downtown, which butts up against the university, or there are massive apartment complexes that sit within a 5-mile radius of campus that buses run to regularly that are primarily geared towards both undergrad and graduate students. So there's all sorts of different housing options depending on what you're looking for. If you're looking for off campus, the link on this website here gives you a lot of different resources, but you can find something that fits your budget and fits what you're looking for in a place to live.
So John, I was going to ask you, as someone who has lived here for 4 years as a student, what would be your recommendation or suggestion?
Yeah, so I can tell you that there's one on-housing campus opportunity for us as grad students. Penn State calls it White Course, and that's where they put all grad students. And one of our students in the program, Adrian Corbin, he's an RA for grad housing at White Course. So that's also an option that you might want to look into, depending on how much experience you have being an RA, is that you can also do what Adrian does, and that's become a grad RA. I live at Blue Course, which is about half a mile from campus. I live with 2 other people, and it's a condo. It's awesome. The rent is reasonable. It comes with a free parking spot and free bus pass to campus. So, like Whitney and Steven said, they're in all the off-campus housing properties. Penn State has made sure that you get busing from that housing to campus. So transportation is really never a problem. I think the buses run from, I think it's 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. So don't worry about transportation. We do a lot of carpooling too in our program. I've given rides to non-Eagles fans and Eagles fans, so don't worry about it. We're all good, as long as we win. But I recommend off-campus housing, just because because I haven't lived at the grad housing, so all I know really is between dorms and off-campus. I prefer off-campus. And like I said, it's reasonable rent, and you're able to live with who you want to live with off campus. And if you have questions about where, I'm always open or available for an email. But I live at Blue Course Commons, and that place is great. They work with you. I'm cool with the landlord. Like, our landlord helps us all because we're all students. So what you'll find is that within a 5-mile radius, a lot of the housing developments are geared towards Penn State students. So you will never be living like in the same place with like a full-time family, like a family.
And a lot of,
students.
oh, sorry.
Yeah.
A lot of them too, I know, specifically are geared towards graduate students. A lot of the off-campus, they'll say graduate or professionals as well.
Right.
We do have a question here. I don't know the answer. Maybe one of you guys do. Is the on-campus housing pet friendly?
Give me one question. I will ask. I don't believe so, but I'll make a call real quick.
Okay. So maybe hopefully we'll find the answer out to that. And that's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that.
I'm not either. But let's talk a little bit about.
John's finding out for us right now.
John's gonna find out. We'll come back to that. Let's talk a little bit about life at Penn State, Stephen.
Yeah, so I touched on this a little bit earlier, but as I said, there's a lot of different things to do at Penn State. Regardless of whether you're an undergrad student or a graduate student, you have access to all of the different clubs, organizations, intramural sports. And there are thousands of clubs and organizations that you can get involved with. No matter what your interests are, there's a club or an org that you can connect with here at Penn State. Campus events happen regularly, whether it's sports or blood drives or arts festival happens every summer. There's always something going on campus that you can be involved with. And then local events. There's always a pop-up farmers market downtown if you want to get fresh produce. I know in the summer they do all sorts of different events besides Arts Fest that they, shut down different parts of the streets and have little mini festivals that pop up. There's always something to do in the town. And so it's really kind of up to you to find things that connect with your interests and that you enjoy. We also have the local state theater, which puts on all sorts of different productions on a regular basis. And then, like I said, major artists constantly come to the Bryce Jordan Center to perform. And there's always things going on and to do.
And even as we've been remote learning right now, there are a lot of online events happening. So while we don't know what's happening in the fall, there are still activities happening. I don't know if John has an answer, but I did get another question. Did you get an answer, John?
No, I'm waiting for him to
Okay,
give me a call back.
still waiting. There is another question here. Is there a way to coordinate off-campus housing within students of the program? Before I toss that to John, I would say that once you become, I'll put this out there. Once you become accepted, once once you become an accepted student and go through the process with Stephen, we add you to our email group with the students, and you can communicate back and forth with them. But John, I don't know what the situation is with everybody in the cohort as far as housing goes.
So right now, I can tell you probably won't be living with someone who was in the first year in the program, just because we had to had our leases signed like December. So we already have a place to stay. Now you can, with incoming students, you can, because those places are still offering, actually places at Blue Course where I'm living right now are still have open slots, and I can give you the resources or the connections for that. But what also happens too is we have a group meet for our cohort. And as soon as Whitney gives me the all right to get your information, I can add you to that group me, and then you just ask away, talk with among each other, or ask the first year students, and we'll give you whatever resources we can. But yeah, as soon as you add it to the email, I can add you to the group me, and you guys will be able to coordinate with each other about living with each other, honestly. So.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it makes things easier if you guys are already connecting and chatting before the semester gets underway. John, did you have any thing you wanted to add about the student clubs and organizations or campus events and life in general at Penn State?
Yeah, so there is a lot that happens at Penn State University, okay? A lot that happens, like Stephen said, and you will, as soon as you get your Penn State email, it will be flooded by newsletter after newsletter after newsletter from all different colleges telling you what's going on. There's something like other universities, there's always something going on every day. So it's easy for you to get involved. It's easy for you to partner up with somebody in the cohort or your roommate or your neighbor to figure out something. Penn State prides itself that if there's nothing on campus geared towards you, and that's a problem if there isn't, because there's a lot going on here, it's really easy for you to build a program that you want. So they advertise that, and I've seen it done before. So it's easy, honestly. Once you get your email, I'm telling you, you're gonna like not want the newsletters, but it's gonna be so handy in terms of planning what you want to do for the week and what organizations you want to join. I don't know if you guys have heard of Thon. Can people answer me on here? I guess not. But there's a thing called Thon, and once you become a Penn Stater, you understand what Thon is, and most likely you'll be joining Thon. So just understand that.
And I wanted to add that we started adding our first cohort into an email group prior to you all having your PSU email addresses, so you could start connecting with each other and so that we could start connecting with you as well. We do have folks asking for John's contact info. I don't want to start giving that out right away, but maybe what I could do is provide their contact info with John, and if he feels comfortable, he can email people back. So we don't just give it out over Zoom. So that's what I'll do is the couple of people who have asked me individually, we only have a few people on the webinar, so I'll send them an email separately who have asked. Sounds good? Okay. So now if there are any additional questions, now would be the time to ask them. I want to encourage everybody to, if you don't have any additional questions right now, but if you think of any in the future, we want to encourage you to email us at publicpolicy@psu.edu. And Stephen is the one who checks that mailbox. So he, as our enrollment and advising manager, is the one who can answer those questions about your acceptance, about your curriculum, about going through the process of tuition and funding and all those questions. So he's the one with the answers, and can get you connected with anyone else that you may need to talk to.
Yeah, so please reach out and we'll set up a Zoom appointment and we'll get everything sorted out for you.
Yeah, and it looks like I have a couple people I will send emails to and send John emails with their contact info.
And no matter what John tells you, I didn't cheat him at trivia.
Well, I was there too, so yeah. Well, we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight for this webinar, and we want to again congratulate you on your acceptance, and we really hope that you're going to join us in the fall. We have a great cohort of students. We have an amazing group of faculty, including some new faculty who will be joining us this fall, and we're very excited about that. But again, it's a great program. It's a new program where you can really get to know each other and know the faculty as well. So we thank you again for joining us. And I do see the couple of folks that want me to share their contact info with John, and I will certainly do that. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you'll follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well. And that's where we're sharing a lot of updates about our internships with our students and all the news there. So thank you again so much for joining us, and have a great night.
Congrats, everyone. Have a good night.
Congrats.